falsehood, you're faced with two options. You can accept it or you can reject it. The basis upon which we take one of these actions is a product of our critical thinking capabilities and a desire to know what is true instead of confirming our bias. A lie can travel halfway around the world while the truth is still putting on its shoes. On Brainstorm, we choose the hard truths over the comforting lies. Reason, compassion, skepticism. This is the Brainstorm Podcast.
To our patrons, welcome back. For those listening weekly, welcome to the Shift to Reason Radio, the Brainstorm production, where we take current events and important skeptical topics and try to analyze them critically. We're here in Lisa's apartment in Regina, Saskatchewan, and today is August 31st, 2018. I'm Cory, and I'm joined by Leo.
Hey there.
Rene.
Hello.
And Lisa.
It's my apartment.
That's right.
We broke into her house. She's not here.
Yeah.
That's right.
This is totally Lisa. Welcome to my apartment.
Not a impersonator at all. All right, so we're going to go to Religious Nuttery and do Destin's story.
Cornerstone, this might be new to some of you. Scripture says that even our righteous deeds are as filthy rags to God. So even the good things that you do, even things like feeding the hungry and clothing the poor and taking in widows and orphans, as nice as those things are, if not done from the place of obedience to and a relationship with God, are completely worthless and disgusting to God. If you're not daily walking in a place of relationship to God, then the news that we have to bring you is that you're on your way to hell right now.
On the Pennsylvania grand jury report on all the priests and all the things.
So, what's new?
Is there a way that we can just insert sigh thing in right before this?
Yeah.
Yeah, we need Dave with his little sound things.
Yeah, that's right. This article.
I'll admit I didn't read this article because I'm like,
I didn't read this one. I read quite a few about on the topic.
I listened to a lot of shows about it.
It's like the worst open secret ever.
Right. And yet, here, I'll just read the opening to this article. It says, a long-awaited grand jury investigation into clergy sexual abuse in Pennsylvania was released Tuesday in an interim redacted form. The report detailed decades of alleged misconduct and cover-ups in six of the state's 8 Roman Catholic dioceses. And it kind of broke down that there was like over 1,000 victims and like 300 priests that were involved in this, and like it was just this
How many
massive.
priests could be in 6 dioceses? Is that just like all of them? Like 300 priests? Like,
pretty
is that
much,
like?
eh?
It's basically a musical chair of who raped the kid. That's like between the dioceses, you just like keep switching
Moving
them out.
around.
Like, so you can have a whole bunch of them coming through because.
Why is anyone Catholic?
I have no idea.
Like, why does anyone? Okay, fine, you didn't know before. Fine, okay, but now that you know
right.
this shit happened, why? Okay, you could do it for a principle. You could be like, and under the principle of me not believing in raping kids, then I'm just not going to be a Catholic anymore. Okay, fine, you could do it for principle stand, or you could be like, since I don't want my kids to be raped, I'm going to not be a Catholic. Like, you could do this from a principled standpoint. You could do this from a pragmatic standpoint. There is really no good reason to be a Catholic anymore. Like, I don't get it. Like, what the fuck?
I didn't get it before.
Like, mass is some boring shit. I mean, this is not even fun. No. There is nothing good about the Catholic Church. Like, even take away the really awful thing, like the rapes and the blah, 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 blah. Okay. Even the most best case scenario, you're bored as fuck. And it's dry. Like, it's not fun. There's singing, but it's like 8 grannies at the front out of tune. Like, there is nothing good. I don't get it.
I don't get it. I often want to talk to people who are Catholic and be like, so what the fuck? Like, why? Because you know
like,
that if you don't
actively Catholic, I don't know. Like, I don't get it.
Yeah, like if you donate, you know that if you're donating money to the Catholic Church, it's going to cover up sexual abuse.
Some portion of it for sure.
So what's going on there? How can people justify that?
I know people who like say that they're Catholic, but they don't ever go to church and they don't,
I believe the term is lapsed Catholic.
Yeah, sure, fair. But like the ones who actually do go to church and blah, like who are they? I don't understand.
I don't know.
I guess my grandmother was pretty Catholic until she developed Alzheimer's. So I mean, I don't know. I don't get it. Anyway, so priests in Pennsylvania did terrible things. Like that, I think one of the hardest things is
I was just looking at this. It says the report counted 41 predator priests in the Diocese of Erie, 37 in Allentown, 20 in Greensburg, 45 in Harrisburg, 99 in Pittsburgh, and 59 in Scranton.
But they didn't say out of how many. Like, is it 99 out of 100? Like, what is the...
like all of them.
That's what I want to know. No, I really want to know like, the numbers.
What's the percentage?
There's the one lone guy. It's the good guy, but everyone shuns him because he's not part of the,
pedophile
right.
group.
Yeah, he's not part of the group, so he doesn't get in on the...
Father Mike over there not joining us in the,
It's like, I don't know. Reading news reports on the report was difficult. And a lot of them had warnings like about the graphical nature.
Right.
Reading some of the things that happen, you're just like, it's...
Something that, I mentioned when we were just having the break was that people are really stuck on the idea that they were not just grooming the kids, but also giving the kids that had been groomed these gold crosses that signaled to other predators that this kid had already been groomed, and this is an easy target. You can victimize this person.
Insane to me. I don't understand.
Right? Yeah. Like that is some hardcore fucking fucked up stuff.
That's kind of downright evil. That's really what that is.
Like priests. I mean, you'd think at least small number of priests would go into it in order to be ethical.
Well, I thought that was kind of the point, right?
And that's what scares me the most, honestly. I'm like, yeah, we always knew that there were priests, but why that means the bad ones outnumber the good ones,
right.
or something of that nature.
The culture is such that
there's either a very bad culture,
well, definitely bad culture,
or the numbers are actually very bad. But either way, it's
bad
because you'd think that if it was just a small percentage, there couldn't be a culture that bad. If it was only 5% of priests who ever did this or who condoned it, the other 95 would be like, yeah, we should stop that.
But it can't be 5% because
it has to be more.
Because he just said 100 priests in Pittsburgh, 100 priests. So that would have to be 20 times? So 2,000. Is there 2,000 priests in Pittsburgh? No.
Probably
no way.
not.
There's 2,000 churches in a city. So I mean, it's higher than 5%.
Yeah. So but I use it as an example. Like if it was a very low percent, then the majority
5% still seems like way too much. Like as a Catholic, if I were Catholic, I wouldn't be like, well, there's only a 1 in 20 chance that my kid will be molested. No, that's still too high, much too high.
But I'm saying it's probably significantly higher, and 5 is already way too high.
Too high.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I'm taking less than that as the percent chance that I will put my kid in that situation.
Yeah, I mean, I was reading a CBC article, and the guy was making the argument, if you had any major multinational corporation who had this kind of culture, who was systematically sending pedophiles into the community and children, it would never stand. Like that company,
if all of a sudden it came out that
Google,
Amazon, a certain percentage of pediatricians or something like that. I can imagine the fucking shitstorm. And yet the priests, here, have our children, go teach them something.
Think about it.
And they're both in charge of taking care of children, a lot of the times. And that fucking shit.
Think about how fast Weinstein's company collapsed.
Right.
When that shit came to light. And it was one dude doing bad things. This is lots of people doing bad things, Well,
it's
not a direct comparison.
It's not just that the priests were bad and doing bad things. It's that their their superiors were actively covering it up and
Yeah.
actively hiding, like all the way to the highest level, all the way to Rome, all the way to the point that there was that priest who was brought from the United States to the Vatican in order to escape charges.
And
Like-
there's a couple that actually went up the chain at the Vatican, because once they were there, there's still a bunch of them there that they, when you bring them to the Vatican, that's kind of the last place for them. Like if you fucked it up everywhere else, then you know
That's where you go.
Yeah,
Like, and what's with, I mean, okay. I would think most people, no matter how awful the culture is in a workplace or in an organization, okay, could not be convinced to have sex with children, right? Like most people don't want to do that. How is it that the church is a magnet for these people? I guess you just know that, oh, if I'm a pedophile, I'm going to join the church. Like, I don't know. How does this work?
Is there a pedophile communication network where they're like,
online for sure.
where they're like, hey, you know where you can get away with this? Join the church. They'll just shuffle you
but it's
around.
not even like
Learn some Latin.
It
Right.
ain't even something you have to go online for. It, like as Rene said, it's an open secret. There's not
Right,
a secret.
yeah.
But anyway, like everyone knows.
Yeah,
Like-
that's true. I guess even coming out in the news and stuff might make people be like, okay, well, look, priests have been getting away with this for a long time.
and that reference. Well, I don't know if we should get into the next story and combine these two with the nuns.
Sure.
But that, like the Weinstein thing, like when I read the article, I think it was Hemet Mehta who wrote it, like the
Friendly
Yeah, the
atheist.
friendly atheist. Yeah. But yeah, so that
Yes.
was about the nuns who, well, big secret, they're also being abused. But that reminded me of the Harvey Weinstein thing. That guy, one dude, bam, just the entire business crashed to the ground. Catholic Church does it for several hundred years, and then the people are still like, oh, you know, there's some bad ones, like in that kind of shit. Where the fuck, like in these,
There was
adults and children, and just
I can't remember what book I read it in, but there was a story in it where, I mean, like, we might as well combine the stories, but this was like 300 years ago, where there was stories of, they have the monastery with the monks basically using a local nunnery as their own brothel. Mm-hmm. They would get just absolutely shit faced, go bang the nuns, and go riding wild through the village crops. It was like, what the fuck? But
and
they're holy men.
Right.
and that's what the article in the Friendly Atheist talks about, like where it's a patriarchal system where the priests, like, they're kind of the top of the food chain, and that's how the church is set up, where even the nuns, like, who are adult grown ass women, can't really do anything about it. They're just like, no, you're second class, and you are always going to be subservient. And that culture just kind of breeds all the way back. I mean, you can see it happen 300 years ago, and it still hasn't really changed much. Right. I mean, the article said that they found like nuns that came out that had multiple abortions paid for by the priest, because you have to somehow get rid of the
Despicable.
and that story. When I was a wee little boy, I remember hearing a Catholic lady, who was just a random Catholic lady from a small town, talking about how there was behind her church, at her Catholic church, there was a section that was saved for home abortion burials.
Oh, geez.
Behind the Catholic church, and everybody in the church knew it. Oh yeah, there's the little fetus spot, like where they bear, and I was like, holy Christ! I don't think I'm old enough to hear this shit, but that is some real fucked up shit. And you still go to that church. Like, I was probably like 10 years old. I was like, but I'm
How does that not turn you into an atheist?
no, but because I was a good evangelical. There you go. And we don't do that.
Right.
But no, but that it was another open secret that in a lot of places, I mean, if one person knew it in one church, there's probably a lot of other churches that had similar systems way back before clinics were a thing, or,
I mean, back in the day, like maybe, like, people could say I didn't know. Parents know now. Like, how can you? Everyone knows. So who sends their kids to do this? I don't understand. I cannot even imagine it. Be like, yeah, whatever, it's probably fine. Like, I don't know. I don't. Who's doing in this day and age?
Absolutely isn't fine.
Who's doing it?
I don't know.
Get it?
I don't know.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I can, in the 60s, okay, you didn't know. Fine, you didn't know. But, like, now? Like, there's no, I don't. Who becomes a nun now? Anyways.
Yeah, that's a good question, too. So, in a related story, we also have Cardinal McGarrick, who said that all this stuff is because of gay priests. So,
oh man.
Oh no, I almost made a very bad joke. I'm not going to shut up.
But the Pennsylvania report said that it was boys and girls who were being
right. Yeah.
So
that's something that Bill Donahue of the Catholic League down in the U.S. he was arguing that this was actually that the numbers were overinflated and that this was all a witch hunt, and which seems to be a favorite go-to.
The church did witch hunts,
yeah,
and that's why we have a term called witch hunt.
That's why it's called that, eh? Yeah.
Sorry, get to point that out.
The ironies abound.
It's just the apologetics for this behavior is just, it's worse and worse, and we find out more and more, and it's, I don't know.
I find it just, when people defend it, like you can, up until very recently, it was very hard to find any Catholic or like any official in the Catholic Church down the line make strong comments against it. Seems like the Pope is starting to to realize like, oh shit, this is going to come.
Except his solution to the whole thing is to pray. He figures if you pray, then this will solve the whole issue.
Well, he is the Pope. I mean,
presumably
he's drank the Kool-Aid, right? Like
but hopefully, real world consequences.
Hopefully.
Okay.
You can't kick me out. I live here.
Damn it.
Sorry.
But yeah, even he's just saying like, oh, let's just pray this away. Like, let's just pray and hope.
He seems to be a more practical Pope. Fuck, now everything's going to goddamn rhyme. But anyway, as a more practical Pope, but he's still the Pope. Like,
But at what point do they have to admit that praying isn't doing the job, and they have to be like, okay, we'll pray and we'll change the rules.
Not actively hide pedophiles in our church. Maybe we should do that.
Maybe we can pray. We can still pray, but let's just change the rules a little bit.
But then again, what are they going to do? Well, we got to purge the rosters. Let's get rid of these guys. Then that'll be you, and him.
So what do you guys?
And even him, I saw him. I don't know.
What do you guys think about the idea of like some people have put forward that there should be allowed to be female priests and priests should be allowed to get married? Do you think that would help the situation?
I don't think that's the problem.
Okay.
Well, and that's back to the article, like, so that Hemant Mehta, he got it from a different source. I can't remember right now, but he was saying that just because they're supposed to be celibate because women are considered inferior, that is not an excuse for abuse. Like,
I wonder, like, if it would, because what kind of normal man would be like, oh, I want to have a life of celibacy. This is a great idea. You know what I mean? But if a person didn't have to choose that, then maybe you have a selection function where you're getting people who are normal to do this job.
Well, then they might.
That's the argument.
I think.
But does that just dilute the pedophiles? I don't know.
The problem is I don't know what the solution is because obviously it's not as
abolish the church.
Well, we don't have time for rational choices here. But it's not as common in the Protestant churches, but it still happens.
Yeah.
It does
But
happen.
I look at all the abuses that happen in residential schools and stuff, including run by Protestant churches.
Yeah, well, that's kind of my point. So I don't know if that's really the solution. Like,
yeah, I don't know.
I think
there's that thing of where it's it might attract a certain type because it helps create
The
opportunity.
type who doesn't want to have sex with grown-up humans.
Yeah. Well, you think about it. I mean,
They're like,
Yeah.
I can't have sex with grown-up humans. That's fine.
I mean,
I want to live that life.
I'll be a priest. That sounds great.
but I mean, there's other examples. I was going to make a bad
Sorry.
joke about, junior hockey, team coaches, but I mean, that happens,
Well, I mean, you're
it's
definitely
just not
gonna
as
see it
common. It's
when
not
you-
as systematic.
Well, and you don't have. I don't know that you have the hockey league actively hiding what these coaches have done. And if they did that, they should absolutely be slammed for it. Like,
Yeah,
there's no.
that's
But
right.
I mean,
And the one problem is with the church. So you have kind of this weird situation that they're in, maintaining a moral high ground while exposing your own flaws. So it's very hard for somebody to come in and say, well, I did very shitty things this morning, but I am a very good person. Trust me. Like, if you come out admitting that I did shitty stuff this morning, then you can't claim to be a
Right.
good person right after. And it's hard for the church to admit that, yeah, we have whatever percentage of bad priests and we'll deal with them, but we're still a good church. And that's very hard because they need absolute moral high ground to survive.
Right.
Because once you start admitting that, oh yes, so it turns out that about, let's just say 20% of our priests are not as divine as we thought they were. And so then, it questions the other 80 as well at the same time. And so the Catholic Church just chooses to ignore all of it and kind of deify all our priests. They're all men of God. And then, because once you start questioning one, you have to question all of them.
I think it's almost hard for us as atheists to talk about it because it's so baffling. Like, just don't have a church. That's just the stupidest shit ever. Just don't join a church. That's dumb.
Right.
Whatever. Like, it's so out of our wheelhouse that we don't even know. Like, you kind of need. I think the Catholics need to, reform themselves. Like they have to, because that's the only place that can come from. Cause
well, I mean, there's that weird system in it, though, right? Like, I mean, there's hours of stand-up comedy already written about it. I mean, think about it. What do? You take a guy that had a vow of celibacy, lock him in a closet, and have people come in and tell him the most twisted shit that they did on the weekend. And he's, oh, I forgive you. Like, it's weird. And
It is weird.
and
It's super fucking weird,
yeah, right.
actually.
he can just read Reddit now, though. You know what I mean? He doesn't need to do that shit.
No, he doesn't.
It's true.
But but that's what I
Just
mean.
go through Reddit.
I mean-
I forgive you. I forgive you.
I mean, we,
Maybe
I don't think
Facebook.
those people in Reddit are asking for forgiveness. They're like, look at this crazy shit.
I think maybe Snapchat should have like maybe the Catholic Church should start using Snapchat, and then you can send the priest like a bad, like, see, this is what I'm doing right now. Can I be forgiven for that? And then the priest can just like click some like button or some shit
Swipe
like
right to forgive, swipe left for hell. I don't know.
Catholic
know.
Tinder.
that. Like, forgive not to
Tinder.
forgive not to, I don't know.
I mean, come on. They have the like the last rites, the absolution. Like, I mean,
Tinder is the name of the episode.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm so, I don't know. I find it difficult to even talk about it. It's so revolting to me. Like, my family traditionally is Catholic. I just don't. I don't know. It's disgusting to me. And I do have relatives who are, I guess, still, in the church. They go to church.
Is that right?
I should ask them.
Yeah.
Next time I see them, I'm going to
How
ask
the
them.
fuck do you do that?
They would answer because they're cool humans. So I'm going to ask them. I'm going to be like, why? How can you continue? Like, and is it going to be the bad apples argument? I guess. But it's just bad apples is one thing. It's the high levels of the church actively hiding it. It's just despicable. I don't.
The bad apples spoiled the bunch. That's the whole point of the bad apples metaphor.
No, I know, but the farmer doesn't go, oh, there's fucking bad apples. I'm going to put these shitty apples in another barrel. That's a good fucking
With these
idea.
other good apples.
That's what I have the problem with. That's where I really struggle.
What I'll do is I'll spread the bad apples out so nobody notices.
Yeah.
I'll wax them and paint them. And
I'll
then,
take
like,
one
here
bad
you go.
apple from here and put it there and take that apple in there and put it there. It'll be all good. Like, what?
Well, if they use the bad apple argument, you could always ask them, how do you know your priest is not one of them?
Yeah, that's right.
Just like, how do you know if your priest is one of the good ones or bad one?
How would you know? But it's this. But you don't know if your priest is a good apple, bad apple. But you do know for certain that your church, high level, is hiding these bad apples.
Yeah.
You know that that's happening. There's no question about that.
So they're all bad apples.
Well, so it's a bad organization.
Yeah, that's right.
So you know what I mean? Like, why?
So in a very real
That's my
sense,
question.
it's how do you don't know because of the organization, because of the bad organization.
Uncle Steve, Aunt Ann, I know you're not listening, but I'm coming for you next family dinner.
It's interesting that you have cool, quote unquote, Catholic
They're really
family.
cool. They're really nice. I love them.
I
I don't really know how that's possible. Yeah, how do you be a cool Catholic?
I
They're
don't
super awesome.
know how it works, but
Well, Stephen Colbert is Catholic. He teaches Sunday school.
I wonder how he does it. Justify.
He interviewed Oprah once and they talked about it, and it didn't convince me to be religious. But I don't really get it because I think Stephen Colbert is a very smart guy, but I don't get it. But yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
You know what? We should do, not today, but we should actually one day research a segment on smart people who are religious. And we can just be like, how are they reconciling this? How does this, specifically, people for example, Colbert or whatever,
right.
A lot of people who are, I think, totally disingenuous. They're con people, clearly. But there are some people that who are clearly smart, but also religious. And I find this baffling.
Well,
yeah.
I think it's
Isaac Newton.
I think that they're not always. It's not always a smartness thing because you also have, if you just take, let's say, for example, binge drinking and chain smoking. Some very, very brilliant people die very, very young because they binge drink and chain smoke. People like Hitchens, or you can name a bunch. I would say that is incredibly not smart. Exactly what that shit's doing to you. But yet you still do it. And I think a lot of people, it's just, I don't care.
But in my experience, for example, statistically, the more educated a group of people I hang out with, the less they do that shit. I don't know, at the highest level of academics, there's a smoker, sometimes everyone's like, what the fuck is going on? Whereas if you, it's just
that's
not
definitely
common.
true. It's definitely true. But I don't think it's always I think some people just don't give a shit. I think I've wondered that about Colbert as well, and other people. I think some people just look, this is
Church is just his nicotine.
This is just what I do. I like the church. I choose to ignore some of the bad things because I don't want to think about it. I think that's how I think that's how a lot of people kind of just
I think it's an indoctrination thing. As a kid, you're just like, God, McDonald's is the best thing ever. And then you grow up and you eat McDonald's and you're like, yeah, you might just want that thing or whatever. I think it's just because you, Catholic Church, you go into it as a kid, you associate it with family and with belonging and, the rituals, and it's all very, and I think that's what it is, I assume, but I just don't get how people can.
It's tough.
There's lots of things. For example, there's a lot of ethical decisions, I guess, to make in life. I eat meat, right? And there's lots of terrible things that happen to animals, so that I can eat
There's a lot of very good ethical reasons not to.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And how do I justify it? I do it Aziz Ansari said, which is yeah, that's some awful shit, man. But, cows are delicious. I don't really have any, I can't. I don't really have a good, more ethical justification.
Is church okay, the priests are raping kids, but heaven?
No, I think it's the priests raping kids, but my family's always been Catholic, and I know all the rituals, and I'm involved in the church, and I do, and I'm in the choir, and, we do a rummage sale every year, and that's where my social circle is. Yeah. And, it's not Christmas without midnight mass, and blah, 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 all the way down, and this is who I am. I think that's what it is.
Yeah, that sounds right. All right, we'll move on.
Fuck the church.
Fuck the church. On to the Woo Report.
I'm not a scientist, but if I can tell you your science sucks, your science really sucks.
That just makes no fucking sense. I mean, it's just bullshit. Fuck.
Rene, what do you got?
Apparently, Gwyneth Paltrow is moving into Canada.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently, a very large, as they put it, a goopified Stanley Park thing where people were paying $400 a ticket to go in and experience Goop.
Of course.
Yeah, which I read the article like 3 times, and all I gotta say is all I kept thinking was, I can't remember whether it was Mark Twain or P.T. Barnum that said a fool and their money are soon parted. You know,
That's Barnum.
Was it Barnum? Okay. And that's all I could think of with that is that, and you know, there was criticism, there was from the medical community criticizing this thing, but the problem is we have these kind of things all the time. It's just that Goop right now is the biggest, shiniest thing right at the moment. But I mean, how many people, we have psychic fairs in town here, and how many people are excited to go to those?
There's an acupuncturist on the corner near my house. So actually, and there's one just down the street, and I think there's a psychic just down the block from that one.
Is it you, Cory?
It's
Are you
not
running
me.
all these businesses?
Cory probably has a closet full of disguises, like all kinds of different, like, psychic
that's
outfits and like all these.
Just dress up and
I'm just getting dressed for work.
Oh God! After we
put on my gypsy
interviewed,
costume.
after we interviewed that psychic
I'm going to be the
psychic
acupuncturist. Ah,
detective,
crap! I put on my rub and tug outfit. Shit.
Wrong one.
The wrong one. Shouldn't get dressed in the dark.
You were saying, Lisa?
Well, I was saying after we interviewed that psychic detective guy, I just feel like psychics are extra despicable now. I'm just when I really understood. Oh yeah, like how they're bamboozling people and they're just totally preying on people's like most vulnerable and just it's just the worst thing.
Well, I mean, I think
nothing redeemable.
No,
I think
that's
this is
right.
where, and me and Cory were discussing it earlier, was I think this is the thing, is this is where Goop, it dances right in that gray zone between, because actual medicine and health stuff it's not easy, it's not fun, it's
not warm and fuzzy.
Not warm and fuzzy, it's not comfortable, it takes time, it 3/4 times it hurts, you know, whereas this stuff is like, yeah, here, drink some apple cider vinegar and you'll feel fine.
Put it in your pussy; it'll be great.
Yeah, it'll be fine. You know,
The burning means it's working.
it tastes like burning, but you know, but that's but that's where it sits. It's in that warm, fuzzy, you know, yoga stretch pants area of health, and she's making a mint off it. Even though anyone that knows anything about it is like, you know, it says 3/4 of it is bullshit, but people are, if they're willing, there's part of me that says if they're willing to shell out $400 to go, you know, go hard, because there's nothing you can really say that's going to change some of these people's minds.
But this, I mean, I feel like it can be harmful because
absolutely,
like
it can
some people can't actually afford $400. I mean, it's just not, you know, a lot of people that's taking money away from things like resources that they should be spending. And I mean, what scares me the most is people who get this kind of treatment or this kind of whatever instead of real legitimate treatments, and that's really
all of it is because right. Whether it's Gwyneth Paltrow's Goop or just going to the local acupuncturist or whoever, they rub you down with magical rocks. Like, I mean, it's all.
Oh, I had a girl in a group who kept trying to convince me to go to Reiki. Works so well. I'm like, it won't work on me. She's like, but why do you think that? I'm like, because I don't believe in it.
Yeah, that's right. It's specifically placebo based.
Yes. Yeah. It works great for you because you think it works.
Yeah.
But that's exactly it. Why? Because, you know, just touched me and, you know, cured my arthritis or whatever the fuck.
Magic
right?
ooga boo.
I have a very low tolerance for bullshit that way. Like if I go to like a spa and get a pedicure and they do like their whole like, I don't know, like I don't like, I don't know. There's always just a level of bullshit. If you guys aren't women, but like I don't know. When you go to a hairdresser, like they're like, what kind of shampoo are you using? See, I don't think the shampoo you're using is like cleansing your follicles properly. And you're just like,
that's not a fucking thing.
cut my hair and I want to leave. Like, I don't, well, we'll have this be a process and we'll use this toner to strengthen your cuticle. You gotta understand because the science says that hair grows in phases. And you're like, just stop. Okay. I'm only here because my bangs will fucking be crooked if I do it. So just do it straight and I'm leaving. Like, fuck off. Like,
no, don't you dare rub that avocado into my skull. Don't you dare.
I just have very low tolerance of the bullshit. Like, it's not going to hurt me, but I want to leave. Like, I'm not here for listening to you.
But there's people that want to buy the bullshit. They want to go.
But can there be a hair salon without that?
Because there's the big boogeyman of big pharma, right? And true, let's face facts. Big pharma are a bunch of assholes. They just want to make money. But they're not, it's not like it's being run by Cobra Commander and and this cabal of supervillains. They're like, yes, they put it into all the chemicals and then they will, buy into our evil plan. No, they're trying to make money. This is true, but so's Gwyneth Paltrow.
Yeah, it's that they're making money isn't a good argument against them.
Yeah.
When, alternative medicine is like multi-billion dollar industry.
And it's very hard to argue against things that are so large that are large because people want them so much. Like when it comes to religion or to some of these like alternative medicine things or whatever it is, the ones that have so much traction that everybody believes they work or they for some reason like it, it's kind of hard to argue against them because, well, yeah, I guess you're allowed to be stupid. Like that. I'm not going to tell you that you're not allowed to be stupid. And so that
apparently it's like investing in Amazon.
Yeah, apparently. Yeah.
And so I sometimes find myself, just kind of, well, I can't really tell you not to do it because if that's what you want, like people are allowed to be full of shit.
And it's hard to argue against them when they swear that they're getting results. Like, because you're not going to argue with them where it's like,
and it's also, you can do other things. I might get stoned on my way home, but like even things like collecting action figures and shit like that, like you could there are people who think it's extremely stupid, and there's people who find value in it, when there is no intrinsic value in it necessarily, unless you're flipping them to make money.
Right.
But it's kind of like, it's not really benefit, but if it makes you feel good to have all the entire collection.
Is when people break the bank to do it, right? Or they, or they.
But if that's what they want to spend their money on, there's people who want who buy all the newest cars or
people
the
have
newest
kids, and people have
it's tough.
Pay your electric bill because you're spending too much money on Goop. It's just
it's very stupid.
Yeah, but your kids suffer.
And that's
or whatever.
And if you have something real, then you might truly suffer. Like that's the real trouble. Like, is there a line you can cross between letting people be stupid and protecting them? Like, I don't know.
And I think when it comes to children, like Lisa was saying, government should definitely step in. Like when it comes to Jehovah Witness, or if somebody treats their child with Goop or whatever it is. Like if you're mistreating your child or giving it improper treatment due to whatever fucking stupid idea you have. Yeah. But if you're an adult,
they've demonstrated they won't do that in some cases. Like that happened.
There have been a couple exceptions.
Well, like those kids in Ontario who got brought down to the fake shamanistic healer in Florida. They had chemo. They had leukemia, and they fucking died because.
Yeah,
but I'm saying
that's
they should.
Not a good treatment.
Or what was it? The ones that caught meningitis in Alberta because
those fuckers.
Yeah.
Something maybe a little more lighthearted. This article is from The Verge, and it says, "Be careful what you believe about screen time making you blind." And it refers to an article in the USA Today that talked about having your tablets and the blue light from your tablets and phones damaging your eyes. And I mean, they kind of looked at this one study that wasn't really studying the effects on eyes. The study was actually looking at the effects on other types of cells that have had this retinal molecule inserted into them that would make these other cells more sensitive to light. The point of the study was to see if they could move these other cells or turn them off and on, or like do something with these other cells. So they would insert these retinal molecules into these cells and then shine the blue light on. And apparently that's a thing. It did what it killed the cells that had the retinal inserted into it. But the light did. But according to the chemist on this, who did this paper, this has nothing to do with your eyes. This will not damage your eyes at all. So the USA Today story was kind of just, I don't know, nonsense.
Yeah. Bullshit.
Just to say, what does it say here? This blue light study what does this blue light study actually show? It's more about how blue light could cause damage rather than whether it actually does in the eye. The whole thing started because the lab studies how to make cells move in response to light the same way they move in response to chemicals. And then there was some analogy about how cats chasing a laser pointer, but so light is easier to control than chemicals. So the idea is that if you can turn cell movement on and off with the flip of a switch, it might help scientists tease out how different cells contribute to complex biological processes. It's like, there's another analogy, even though that was actually a pretty simple concept. To make cells responsive to light, the team added eye features to non-eye cells. They took proteins that detect light in the eye, called photoreceptors, and tricked the other types of cells, like say cancer cells, into producing them. Then they added these retinols, a molecule that photoreceptors need in order to sense light. And that's when they found out that the blue light damaged or killed the other cells. So there was this whole process within the lab that was required for blue light to actually damage the eyes, or damage these cells, not the eyes. Yeah. I don't know. Not much more to say about it.
Nope.
USA Today overreported, and this study apparently was not did not lead to the conclusions that they thought it would. You look like you're thinking.
So a reporter, sorry, I'm trying to understand. A reporter read a study where they kind of doped non-eye cells with photoreceptors.
Yes.
Which would have useful properties because you could probe something with light rather than chemicals.
Right.
And the reporter then concluded that light damages cells, which is not true.
Damaged eye cells, specifically.
Eye cells. That's not what the study looked at.
And that's not what the study looked at.
We look at things all the time. Why would blue light in particular? I mean, if you stare at ultraviolet light, yes.
Right.
If I were to stare at a very bright light source, irrespective of the wavelength, yes. But a specific wavelength of light looking at your phone, I don't see why.
Yeah, no.
Not that I know of.
This is what you get when you have a reporter reporting on one study without fully understanding it.
And did they even interview the
It's really short report, actually. Like it's in USA Today.
I've seen so many examples where a reporter will come and try to interview a scientist. Like I've seen it happen, and like they're really trying hard to understand. And then you read the article they write, and you're just like, no, that's
Completely
not what
missed
I
the
said.
point.
Like, and that's even them trying. So like I don't even know. Like it's hard to get scientific reporting right, and like I appreciate they're not scientists, but part of the art of being a science reporter is getting it right. I mean, I think they always talk about, we're there to make it, digestible by the public, but like,
Right.
but actually even more important than making sure it's digestible to the public is making sure that it's accurate. Like if you're
Right,
not
yeah.
reporting what's actually with the actual cases, then you might as well not bother. It doesn't matter
Yeah,
how
that's
accessible
right.
it is.
Yeah. People can understand the wrong things all the time. It doesn't help.
Yeah. So exactly. I just think anyways,
Yeah, for sure.
it's easy to happen.
Yeah, it's not the first time that something like this has
It
happened.
won't be the last.
Definitely won't be the last.
If you base medicine on science, you cure people. If you base the design of planes on science, they fly. If you base the design of rockets on science, they reach the moon. It works, bitches.
Yes, science!
All right, Lisa,
Oh, me.
you're up for science.
Okay. You sent me a thing.
I sent you a thing.
You made me read a thing. Okay. This is on the website sapiens.org. It is a editorial piece called Ancestry Tests Pose a Threat to Our Social Fabric. Subtitle, Commercial DNA Testing Isn't Just Harmless Entertainment, It's Keeping Alive Ideas That Deserve to Die. This is written by John Edward Terrell. I think, because he refers further in the article to being an anthropologist, so I assume he's an anthropologist. I don't really know much about him. I mean, it's an interesting, I don't know. I don't really like his writing that much, but whatever. So, the long and short of it is, he makes this argument for why humans are inherently good and not inherently violent.
Oh, is that right?
Yes, and so whatever. Okay, like that seems to be neither here nor there. But the important thing is that he kind of feels he thinks it's interesting that there are now for-profit commercial services such as Ancestry DNA and 23andMe, where you can get a cheek swab and send it off for genotype testing. And what you get back is something like, let me see, you're 48% West European, 27% Scandinavian, 9% Irish, Scottish, Welsh, and 7% Finnish, Russian, 4% British, 3% East European, and 2% other. So what these companies do is they take, as he describes it, they do genetic testing in certain regions and they find common genetic markers.
Right.
And then they whatever, take averages or whatever, and it's if they find that marker, they'll ascribe it to you.
Okay.
And so what he's basically saying in this piece is that it's kind of a goofy thing.
It's all nonsense.
Yeah. Well, it's not that it's nonsense. It's just a goofy thing to worry about or care about because, that's his argument. Like as human beings, we are 99.9% genetically identical to each other.
Right.
We're all the
yeah.
same. It's only like on a 0.1% basis that we vary from
so
each
these markers in different
Right.
regions, it's like
right. And if you look at if you think about math, like exponential growth, you have 2 parents, you have 4 grandparents, you have, 8 great grandparents, et cetera, so it goes on down. So that number grows very, very quickly. Like the amount of genetic contribution from ancestors you have quite a ways back is very low.
Right.
And there, it gets, I guess diluted to the point where you may not actually have any actual genes because genes are discrete, right? You may not have actual genes from your 17th, great grandparent, right? Like,
Right.
'cause they needed to exist in order for you to get to the point you're at, but like you might not actually have any genes left that are from them, as an example. And he actually had some links to some very interesting articles, like I think UC Davis, like a University of California Davis website where this person did some modeling as to like how quickly that grows and how kind of your genetics gets diluted. The long and short of it is we are all very, very, very related to each other as human beings.
Right.
And so his argument is just like, well, people might get this testing then because they think it's cute or think it's funny or whatever, but he doesn't. He worries about, I guess, kind of like with possible racist undertones there, where you're like,
Okay.
oh well, I'm this much Scandinavian, or I don't know, like just, and race is really, really human. It's not real, right? Like there's no
Right.
such thing as an.
It's almost entirely invented.
Right, you can't prove somebody is white or whatever, or let's say Scandinavian or Scottish. Like, there's no, I mean, these companies take averages and they blah blah blah, and he kind of worries that it kind of harkens back to old time thoughts about race.
Measuring skull size.
Yeah, like it's just sort of, and it's just sort of irrelevant. Like it doesn't
Right.
matter, right? So like he just thinks it's kind of like it's not something that. I don't know, it's just not important, and we are way more related to each other than we are not related to each other.
Well, especially seeing how interwoven all of Europe is. Like,
Right.
you can't make.
How do you divide that
Well,
up?
yeah. So like he addresses what he calls the myth of like, in the past, while people stayed in their own region and they never, you didn't mix, so
Bullshit.
you had pure races, blah blah blah. No,
Bullshit.
like yeah, I know. So that's never been true. Like for all of human history, like races have mixed and things or races, whatever cultures have mixed and people from one place. So there's no such thing as a pure whatever.
Right.
There's no such thing as a pure Aryan anymore. There's such thing as a pure African or whatever. Like there's no such thing.
I mean,
So-
it might be myth, but don't they say something like 5% of everyone on the planet can trace themselves back to Genghis Khan or something?
Well, but he
Right,
actually
right.
addresses that in the piece, like saying like people want to be told, "Oh, I trace back to Genghis Khan." Like he's like, whatever, it doesn't matter, like.
Yeah. I mean, it was more of a case of because they.
It's not getting you out of your mother's basement. So.
Yeah, well, I was thinking it's more a case because they raped and pillaged from the steppes of Mongolia right to the edges
Right.
of Europe. But like,
Yeah.
When he had like 100 wives or however many kids.
Yeah.
But anyways, it doesn't matter. But the long and short of it, the piece just argues that, yeah, it's not only, might think of it as a silly thing to do, but he says it kind of, in his opinion, it's kind of a dangerous line of thinking to get into. And
I think it's dangerous if you take it seriously. I mean, I've seen the ads and be like, I'd be curious to see what it shows. It's bullshit, but I'd be kind of curious. But it's bullshit.
I have heard on other podcasts about how indigenous people are growing concerned in some ways about the impact that this can have on like the way people think of themselves as part indigenous and therefore part of a tribe or what have you it seems that can present difficulties in various ways. But no, I was just
what do
thinking
you mean? Like, so somebody thinks they're part.
yeah, like if they're 132nd or they've got this little marker that says that they were partly from such and such a tribe that, I mean,
Now they think they're entitled to
now,
benefits? Is that
now they think they get to live in certain places or, they're part of this whole other movement or whatever
Yeah.
when they haven't had to.
I have my 23andMe. I can absolutely wear the fucking headdress.
right.
The one ad that I can't even remember which one it is, but I've seen it a couple of times. But there's this one ad of this dude talking about his father, like, "Oh, my father thought he was Italian," and then like shows like the father with like an Italian dish and like, "Hey, the family come eat the Italian stuff," and then he
no
does his
stereotypes there.
No, and then he does his ancestry, finds out he's Scottish, and then he comes with a kilt and like haggis. He's like, "Here's haggis, you'll love it." and that ad revealed something deeper. Why do people think that your genes have anything to do with your culture? Like, if you grew up thinking you were Italian, you grew up in an Italian home, eating all the Italian food, listening to Italian music, all of a sudden, you're not all of a sudden Scottish. Like,
That's right.
and that ad, just like I've seen it a couple of times, but it bugs me.
And if it was anything other than, quote, white races, I think it would be incredibly racist.
Yeah,
right?
right.
Like, I thought I was black, and then they did some black racist thing, and it turns out I was actually whatever, I don't know, whatever, Asian, and then there's like some racist Asian thing. I don't know, like
some other stereotype.
yeah. So I mean, these are
But-
goofy.
But the underlying concept is just so stupid, like how that.
It's
I don't know. I mean, there's stories of like, where is it? There was one guy who was very avowt, white supremacist asshole. And went on Maury Povich and they did DNA testing and supposedly they found out he had black ancestry. I personally just find that shit funny. But I mean, it could go the other way, right? Like,
yeah, that's right. Yeah. It could totally reinforce whatever bullshit beliefs they have.
Meanwhile, all it is bullshit. Like,
but it just emphasizes something that's not important.
Something
not,
that's something
and
that's
it's not
bullshit.
real. Like I said, like there's no, you're 9% Scandinavian, you're 8% Scottish. There's no such thing as 100% Scottish person. Like that's not a thing. Like
that's right.
There's no.
The only way you're 100% Scottish.
You're 100% human. That's
the only way you're 100% Scottish is if you were born and raised in Scotland and you never left Scotland.
No, but okay, that's cultural, but genetically.
Yeah. No, genetically is bullshit.
You could take two people that on these, like in these, whatever tests would test 100% Scottish, but their genes would still differ because they're two different people. So at what level of variation of genes between two people do you say, well, now you're no longer 100% Scottish, now you're 98% Scottish? Where does that happen? Like that's not, the whole thing is, it's not meaningful.
Right. Yeah. My brother is 1% less Scottish than I am, or whatever.
I don't know how that would work. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Didn't eat enough haggis as a kid.
That's right. So silly.
I don't know. I've seen those ads, and I've always like part of me that it's bullshit, but I'd be like, I wonder what it popped up. But
I'd be more willing to do it for my dog. I always want to be like, I want to know, you're like 10% Dachshund and 20% Husky.
Right.
Like you can do that for your dog. That's interesting. Because dog races are real.
Yeah.
Yes, that's
I'm
right.
thinking the problem is we have this argument about the races and if human beings were truly different, then there'd be certain people couldn't have children because
that's right. Yeah,
it was just
they'd be too genetically different,
and it would just wouldn't have
Yeah, and that's not a thing.
That's not a thing.
So,
not a thing.
There's definitely some people that shouldn't have children.
yeah, that's right.
And they usually have the most.
Well, that's because there's no such thing as subs. Like, we're not subspecies of each other. Like we're all human beings.
Despite right wing and racist rhetoric, no, there's no such thing.
There's no subspecies. For everything else, you can check out the show notes at thebrainstormpodcast.com and our website, brainstormblog.net. Thanks to our financial supporters, Janet, Kim, Stephanie, Zach, the Utah Outcasts, Bassett, Will, Aaron, Daryl, Destin Sucks, Bob, Glenn, Destin doesn't suck that much, Magnus, several species of small furry animals gathered together in a cave, Positively Skeptical, Rob, Keith, the Podunk Polymath, Larry, and now Kayla. If you want to join them and help the show grow, then you can do that at patreon.com/brainstormpodcast. Or you can go and buy some stuff at tpublic.com/stores/brainstorm-podcast-gear. You can join us every 2 weeks on brainstormradio.net. Our next live show is September 14th, and our guest will be Richard A. Kahn Jr., author of The Earthbound Parent, How and Why to Raise Your Little Angels Without Religion. I want to thank BJ again for joining us. You can find more of his stuff at bjmendelsohn.com. So make sure to check that out, and remember that I'm offering a copy of his book, The End of Privacy, to the first listener to contact me. Thanks to Dave for our intro music. Thanks to Aaron Rabbi from the Embrace the Void podcast for doing the intro voiceover. You can find his stuff at voidpod.com. Thanks to Alex Capper Murdoch for doing the voiceover for our ads. And thanks to Jason Camo for doing the outro music. You can find his stuff at aloststateofmind.com. All music played is either with permission or under the SOCAN license to play. For more information on SOCAN, you can check out the music license info page on our website, brainstormblog.net. Remember to give us a rating, a thumbs up, or a fave on your podcatcher of choice. Join our Facebook group, like our page, follow us on Twitter, share the show, and spread the word. Seriously, share, like, and comment on Facebook or Twitter, reply, retweet, and all that stuff. Increased engagement means more people see our stuff. Thanks for listening, and remember, the truth matters.